Hi everyone, this is just a walkthrough of how our session plans work for the season and our curriculum and how that works over a season and what you can expect if you sign up to the Patreon channel, and you will then get the session plans sent to you each week, accessible from the Patreon channel. So this is one of the things that membership gets you. So as you can see, each separate sets of age groups, so our under 7s to 10 have their own season plan, which is split into 6 sets of topics. So ball control, passing, defending, finishing, dribbling, and culminating in a games week where we can consolidate their learning. We then deliver this over 6 blocks throughout the season, so this will give you 36 weeks worth of session plans. What we suggest is when you have little breaks, maybe for half terms and stuff like that, you can step back from the session plan, and then you can start trying your own things and putting your own take on things. It's also absolutely fine to repeat the sessions as well. So here's an example of what a season plan would look like, and this is what the sessions will be for the under 7 to under 10 age group. Now moving on to what an actual session plan looks like, here is the layout of the session plan. So this is over 6 pages, but a lot of detail is in the first 5, and then the last page is just an easy to print session that you can take with you and just have in your pocket or at your session with you to give you a quick reminder and some hints. So it starts with a session topic, and this session is based on playing through the thirds, and also we put what are we doing and why are we doing this. This is always really important to talk to players about, so they can understand why they're practicing things in the session, and then they can relate that to tactics, and it'll improve their tactical outcomes and tactical knowledge. But it's always good to talk to players about what you're doing and why you're doing it. So for example, this session is designed to give players the foundation skills they're going to need to play through the thirds, which mainly here is awareness, being able to receive on the back foot with their body open, and then making a decision whether to pass or whether to drive with the ball. We then go down to our learning objectives and our priorities. So what will happen is you'll get players of different ability levels within your group, okay, and some of them might be really high achieving at that time, some of them might be struggling to keep up. So what we do is we put our learning objectives into priorities. So ultimately we want to make sure everyone gets the first priority. Everyone learns that part of it. And then if you've got players that are excelling, they might get priority 2 and 3. Some of them might just get the first couple, but this helps you layer what you're trying to get them to learn and what's most important. So as you can see, because we're working with foundation phase players, our first priority in this session is actually making sure they've got good control of the ball in tight areas, and they've got their ability to take their first touch and have their head up to make a decision. Because if we haven't got that, there's no point in talking about receiving on your back foot or whether to drive or pass. We've got to make sure everyone is learning this part first. Then we go down to priority 2. When everyone's got that, or everyone is hopefully achieving that to some level, we can start working on receiving the ball with an open body shape, and so that they can also think about, can I see where the ball's coming from or where the ball's going. Priority 3 is for those players that are really excelling during the session. It's really pushing them about making their decisions after they've received the ball and making sure they're making the right decisions once they have the ball. And then it's the equipment that you need in an ideal world: balls, bibs, cones, mini goals and normal goals, but I'll come on to something later if you haven't got that equipment. Then you'll see each part of the session is split into 3 20-minute sections. In the first 20-minute section we've got a diagram, and then there is an explanation of the setup of the practice. So it says here how big to set your practice up, what the players will be doing in this practice and how to set the practice up, and if there's a progression, how to change that progression. And then the coaching points in this practice. The coaching points are split into 2 parts. In bold is the actual coaching point, and then in italics is actually why we're teaching them this, so you can improve your understanding as a coach, and also if players question you, you can give them the answer. So for example, the second coaching point of, if there is nobody behind you, can you receive the ball on your back foot? And then the reasoning being, this will allow players to play forward quicker. It doesn't matter if that's passing or dribbling, if they can learn this skill. Then we go into the second part, which is the main part of the session. This one in particular, we would have slightly different practices for under 7s and 8s as we would for 9s and 10s. So it's split into part 2A and 2B, which shows you just slightly different ways of doing the session depending on the age group you're coaching. And again, as you can see, the setup and the coaching points are all listed. And then we go on to the final part of the session plan, which is always a game related practice or a small sided game. And again, here it is, the setup, how you would run the practice, the coaching points you will need to teach. A lot of the coaching points are very similar because we're trying to build up their understanding and their knowledge throughout the session. Then what happens on the last page of the session plan is tips and adjustments. So these give you some ideas about how you might change things depending on the situation and scenario you're in. So for example, player numbers. What if too many turn up? What if you don't have enough? So this part just gives you some hints and tips about what to do in that situation. What about if you don't have the equipment such as mini goals and goals? Here's how you can still run this session and what you just need to change. The differentiation section is about if you've got players that are really excelling and need challenging, or you've got some that are currently struggling to keep up, how can you challenge both of those sets of players? We've also got a small section on how to include goalkeepers in this part of your session. There's an understanding that some of you might actually train for 90 minutes instead of 60. So this gives you tips on how to change that, and these tips and adjustments are included in every session plan. And then coaching styles. How should you really be coaching this? Now, we don't want to create robotic coaches. This is just advice and tips really, but it's a way for you to try different coaching styles and just advice on what coaching styles might work with this session. Now, obviously, if you wanted to print all this and take these to your sessions with you, you can, but we know that's not always feasible, or you might just want to be able to look at it quickly before the session. The last page is a printable summary of the whole session. So you'll always get this one page that you can print out, which gives you a quick explanation of the setup and the coaching points for all parts of the session. So that is an explanation of how our Patreon sessions work. If you sign up to the Patreon, you can get one of these sessions uploaded every week, and you'll have access to all of these sessions. And there are different tiers on Patreon. So if you want a bit more than just session plans, if you want advice sessions as well, if you want some ebooks and other materials we put together, as well as a more deep, in-depth webinar every 6 weeks or so, you can sign up to the ultimate tier, which will give you all of that. Or if you just want the session plans, you can sign up for that. So you can search for our Patreon at TSC Coaches Club, and all of this will be on there for you.